Hello, I'm Sharon.
And I'm Wendy.
Welcome
Welcome
to
to
Brown
Brown
Space.
Space.
This is a safe space where we talk about the hard topic of racism.
And build empathy through the healing power of conversation.
Thank you for joining us.
There's an HBO documentary about Gordon Parks, and I had never heard of him, but I sure as heck knew a bunch of his photography, his images,
Yes.
because this man was a powerful artist through his camera lens. And I love how he says this, a choice of weapons. So he's also an author. He also became a movie producer and director.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote some other beautiful books. One in particular is, I think I have it here too, The Learning Tree. So this is a novel, which I can't wait to read. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to need a box of tissues. Um, a novel from life by Gordon Parks. I mean, that's not going to be a walk in the park. I'm sure but that's okay. How it feels to be Black in the white man's world. That's what it says right at the top there.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's going to hit me hard. But this HBO documentary was phenomenal, and it's called A Choice of Weapons: The Life of Gordon Parks. I was so moved by the way they did this documentary. They interviewed contemporary photographers of African descent, and they spoke about how they learned from Mr. Parks, how whether they got to meet him or just simply read things, but were inspired by his approach. And he made such connection to his subjects. And it didn't matter who they were. He went and spent weeks with people, like living with them practically. And in some cases, literally. And then when he got pictures of them, they were utterly relaxed and comfortable. And it was just transparent. And I was so moved by what he was showing of Black lives in America throughout the 20th century. He also photographed haute couture, all these gorgeous white models in their fashion. And I thought, well, that's interesting. He's not being exclusive in what he does. And yet what he's showing is also, yes, exactly. It's like there's a little commentary inside the commentary. You can't miss it when you see the life's work. I felt like I could really connect with his approach and with his work. Even though I haven't lived that life, I felt like I could understand just a little bit about what it was or is to be in the shoes of an African American brother or sister, just a little bit more.
And again, I absolutely agree that he was a perfect example of using his weapon to not to incite division or hate or being exclusionary, but to take a look at who we are specifically in the United States of America, and how we are treating people of color.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that, okay, only people of color can see this and relate to it and be inspired by it. I mean, the way you just express your inspiration of because you saw his work and how you were inspired by him. So it's about the human connection, for sure,
Yes.
making everyone feel that they're a part of this journey.
Yes.
As humans, for sure.
Yes. And even if we didn't live through somebody else's part we aren't immune to the ripples that go out from each other's lives.
Mhm.
We aren't, I guess that's really what white privilege tries to hang on to, isn't it? Like, we have been able to ignore the ripples. We really have. And at some point, you can't live like that anymore. And you don't want to.
One would think.
One would hope.
Your hope.
Yeah. But I know, I mean, just the way I was raised, I think about my parents, and they were good people. They just had a narrow view of things. And I honestly think it came out of fear, fear of losing what they had worked for.
And I think, it the sword cuts both ways, right? Because as a woman of color, or descent of, Africa, people from Africa, you can watch or read or participate in or view some artistic presentation, and they are amazing at their work, and these things come glaring at you. And if you're not mindful, if I'm not mindful, I will close off as well and see it as, okay, this is about my experience. This is about our experience. You will never understand it. But I would want to argue that that is not the motivation behind most artwork that, or even these pieces of work that we've been looking at. That is not the mindset. It's about looking at what's going on and where we are, and this is where we are so far, and it's not in a good place. And what can we as human beings from whatever area of the globe that you're from, what can we as human beings in America, what say ye to this, where we are right now?
Yeah. Because if you don't like where we are right now, you need to figure out how you got here so you can unravel it.
Yep.
And put something more authentic in its place.
And it's a joint effort.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And we can't just create something by saying, I don't like the way it is right now. I mean, having an understanding of what went wrong and what was willfully pushed, which is, what went wrong, exponential factor. You can't avoid it in the future if you don't understand the past.
Well said.
Well,
absolutely.
I wish I could take credit for that sentiment, but we all know that's been around for a while. I'm teaching a class right now on American musical theater. Have I told you a little bit about this? I can't remember.
You did, and I think we had some discussion. I'm trying to remember about how to approach a student.
Oh no, that was another topic.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, we need to talk about that one too. Well, for this class on American musical theater, if you go back in history and you look at the roots of that art form, look at Broadway. It's huge. It's this machine now, right? It's got touring companies and cast albums, and it's got all kinds of swag, and it's huge. Broadway is massive. But where did the musical come from? It came out of a combination of European opera and what was considered acceptable comedy at the time, which was, hold on to your seats, Blackface. Yeah. So they had these minstrel shows, which were supposed to be funny. And they parodied and stereotyped African Americans. Now they stereotyped women and they stereotyped men, and but that's not nearly as harmful. And it was not nearly as egregious. And this went on for quite a while, from the 1880s into the 20th century. And what started happening is that African Americans started creating their own minstrel troupes. And obviously they didn't need to use blackface. And so they had critics on the one hand who were saying, you're playing into this. And then what they could see over the long term was that eventually blackface went by the wayside because the general public could see that this was uncomfortable, because it was not
Authentic.
it was not authentic. It was not okay. It was demeaning. It was racist. More people, at least in the entertainment industry of those decades, started to find this unacceptable. And so even though the Black performers and writers who kind of looked like they were going along with it, they actually were fighting it from within. Isn't that fascinating?
It's more example of what we're saying. It's showing you through your art, this is where you are. This is where we are.
Yes. Hey people, this is what we're doing. Hello, have you noticed this? Have you noticed how it's not okay? Can we show you why? Mind-boggling. My class, I have 12 students in the class, tiny little class. I have 11 Caucasian students and one young man who is from Kenya. And it is a fascinating conversation because everyone in the room gets really uptight whenever we talk about racism in musical theater or in history. And then musical theater was commenting on it. And this young man from Kenya is just super interested. He's glued to it, and he'll contribute and he talks about it. And I don't pick up on him being uncomfortable. He's aware and able to talk about it and hear it. And some of it's news and some of it's not. But the rest of the class, you can just feel them tense up oh my gosh, this is so uncomfortable because it's so wrong. And how could our white ancestors have thought this way? It's fascinating.
Yeah. And I think that was the student I was referring to, right? He's very comfortable in who he is.
Yeah.
He really, really is. And I think, and you said it, you made a statement, how could our ancestors have done this? But the fact is that there are things are being done now, today, right? And I think that's where that uncomfortableness comes from, because it's not that ownership of who you are, whether it's the good part, the bad part, the ugly part, the better part, you're uncomfortable because you're not owning the whole of it, to say,
That's
wow.
True. I don't think I thought of that. Keep going with that.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying that it's uncomfortable because you're still saying, okay, our ancestors did this, or this is not anything that I am responsible for now, because, oh my gosh, I would never do that. But you are on whatever level, because you are a part of the privileged, right? You are a part of it. Oh, well, anybody can pull themselves up. And we've had that conversation already, by the bootstraps. I work hard, you work hard, we all work hard. But we know that there is a disadvantage. And until you can own that part that you're playing in that, then you're going to feel uncomfortable. You can't be whole. You cannot feel whole. You've been watching Brown Space with Sharon and Wendy.
It's been so great talking and sharing here today. We look forward to your comments below, or you can email us at brownspace2020@gmail.com.
Remember, you are the light that gives light to the world.